Setting up a simple PA system can quickly get out of hand if you're new to live sound. Where do you put the speakers? How do you avoid feedback? How do you set the levels? Knowing exactly what to do and in what order can save you time and stress and get you a better result. If we've not met, I'm Andrew. I'm a live sound engineer and I've been mixing shows for about 7 years, I think. I'll show you where you can put your speakers to get proper coverage of the venue that you're covering, how to set levels so you can avoid distortion and get all the volume you need out of your speakers, and I'll walk you through the whole setup of where to connect everything up. I'm just going to show you using an input from my phone, but you can of course connect the main output of your mixers to the speaker in the exact same way and get great results. Before we start, I've got something for you. If you're new to live sound, or if you just want to hear some quick tips about how to do better EQ, then you can check out my free guide, 3 Steps to Perfect EQ. I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. But for now, let's dive in. So let's say, right, you've got a space that you need to fill with sound in some manner, right? It could be whatever you want. Let's call it a flea market, right? And they need a simple playback system to play some music. And you need to cover the area as effectively as possible. You've got 2 speakers and 2 poles to mount those speakers on. We're going to use 2 active speakers to keep it simple at the start. What you want to do is you want to divide the area into 2, right? Because you have 2 speakers, you want to give each speaker an area to cover and ensure that it covers that area as effectively as possible. So you see here, I have taped the listening area, right? And I have divided it into 2. So this is the center, and then this is the edge of the listening area. And then what we want to do is we want to place our speakers in the center of their zone. So this is the left zone, this over here is the right zone. And we're going to rig up our stand, and we're going to place our speaker on the stand, and we're going to tilt it down to cover the listener area. We're going to take it nice and high, because if it's high up, we get a more even coverage in the whole listening area. Because if it's low down, the people in front of it are absorbing all the high frequencies, and they're also getting a really, really loud speaker right in their face. The people at the back are further away from the speaker, therefore it is quieter, and also the people at the front are sucking up all the high frequencies. By going up, we increase the distance from the front row to the speaker while doing very little from the distance from the back row to the speaker, and also we allow those high frequencies to come down both into the front row and to the back row. So let's take a look at the stand. So this is like a super basic tripod stand, right? You're basically going to unscrew at the side here. And then you want to kind of tug out the legs a little bit. And you know, if it's a little stiff, you can hold at the top and try and push down the top while you extend the legs. If it's a new speaker stand, it's usually pretty easy. As they get older, they tend to get a little bit stiff. What you want to do is you want to get these brackets here perpendicular, so at a 90-degree angle to the bowl here. You don't want to have them like this because that creates instability. You don't want to have them like this because that creates instability. You want to have them just about here. And then once you've got them there, tighten them nice and tight. You do not want this to fall down, so double check it's tight. And then we have a nice stable stand. What we're going to do is we're going to grab some gloves so that we get better grip, protect our hands. That's smart. Put them on, and then we're going to get our speaker up onto the speaker stand. Bend your knees, don't bend your back. Go down, pick up the speaker, raise it up, and pop it on the speaker stand. If you look underneath, you'll see that there's 2 holes, and one of them will angle the speaker down the way. And since we want to get more even coverage of the area, we're going to use that, since we'll be firing the speaker down and raising the stand up. So we've got our speaker on our stand, and then we're going to connect up the power and the audio signal to the speaker. We're going to do this before we raise it up, because we don't want to have the speaker high up in the air and try to get signal up and down from it. So first thing we're going to do is the power cable. This particular speaker uses a PowerCon connector, right? It's kind of more professional connector. It locks really, really well in here. But you might find other types of connections, including, this is a really common one here anyway, which is called a Euro cable or an IEC cable. Same thing though, it just gets power to your speaker. So we are going to take our PowerCon connection and we're going to insert it in and twist it, and you'll hear it lock. And this guy on this up here is locked. Then we'll take the other side and we're going to connect it up to our mains power. Now that we're connected to mains power, I should be able to turn it on, and I'll get some lights, the fan goes, and I know that everything is running Fantastic. I'm going to turn it off for now because we want to connect the audio signal cable. Always connect all your signal cables before you turn your speaker on. If you start connecting things when the speaker is turned on, then you're going to get electrical popping noises which can damage the speaker. So the last thing that is turned on is always your speaker. We are going to take a microphone cable, an XLR cable, which is this 3-pin connector here. And then we are going to plug it into input A. We're going to take the other side of our microphone cable, our XLR cable, this side here, and we are going to connect it to a telephone or a laptop or whatever is going to be playing the music. In this example, I'm going to be playing it from my phone. So I have this 3.5mm jack adapter, also called a mini jack adapter, and I've got my little adapter for my iPhone. So I'm going to get this here, and on the other side of this are 2 XLR connectors, right? So a stereo connection. So I'm going to connect the other side of this XLR cable to one side of my mini jack adapter. And we're going to do the exact same thing on the other speaker, so that they're exactly the same. You got your left side going into one part of your adapter, you got your right side going into the other part of the adapter. I'm then going to take my mini jack, my connection to the speaker, and I'm going to plug it into my phone. I'm going to play some music, and I'm going to make sure that my volume is turned all the way down, right? And I'll tell you why in a minute. Now that the volume is turned down, we want to make sure that our input gain on the input channel that we're using, if we've got it here, is at 0. You want to make sure that the speaker output power is also set to 0, so full output, basically. And you want to make sure that whatever connection you have here is set to line. Once we're sure of all that, we can turn our speaker on. Now that our speaker is powered on, it's connected to our phone, we can actually have our phone, our laptop, or whatever playback device that we're using sitting in an area which is accessible to the people playing back. So let's say just on a table over here. And we can play our music, and we can turn it up, and we'll begin to hear it coming out of the speaker. So I'm going to get a friend to help me raise the speaker up to its operational height. Don't try and be a hero and do this yourself. If the speaker is heavy, weighs like 30 kilos, and you want to get it above your head, just get some help. So then we want to make sure that this is unscrewed, and we're going to pull this pin out and raise the speaker up. I'm taking some of the weight with my hand. Tom is taking most of the weight of the speakers, and I pull the pin out, and then we're raising it up, all right? And then I'll put the pin back in and drop it down until it locks. And I'll just do that again. Back down here, Tom has the weight of the speakers. I'm pulling the pin out, and up it goes until it locks. Great. And then one more time. Tom, you've got the weight of that, yeah? Pull the pin out. And there we go. Now we've got the speaker locked in at operational height, and we can turn it. So obviously, I did this in the center of the room to show you, but it makes sense to do this at your speaker positions. So in the center of listening area 1 and in the center of listening area 2. So now we've got our stereo system set up. We have our connections to the left-right speakers, and we've got a phone here connected up, and then we have a volume control on our phone if we need to turn it up. And then if I just step back, we've got like both of our zones have a speaker in them covering the entire listening area. And if we look at these lines on the floor here, you'll see that when we move across this line, we're moving into the coverage area of the next speaker. So this speaker is responsible for this area, and this speaker over here is responsible for this area here. If this is useful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button. Keep watching to see how to hook up subs. Right, so if we want to get more oomph, more power in our setup, let's say we have a DJ or it's a small club night, then we need to add a sub, right? So what I've got here is a really common setup that you'll see. We have the top here on top of a speaker pole, and then if we go down here and have a look, what you'll see is we have a sub with the pole mounted in top of the sub. Really, really common setup. If you're doing this and you're pairing subs with tops, it's really important that you use the same brand of subs as you do tops, because if you use mismatched speakers, you're going to end up with some frequency cancellations and weird stuff going on in your low frequencies where the two hand over to each other. Because what the sub does is it just extends the low frequency of the top speaker, right? So it reproduces all those bass frequencies that your top speaker is not capable of producing. I won't get into it, but we need a much bigger speaker to reproduce the bass sounds that we expect from a club night. Let's go and have a look around the back. So this is the back of our sub. It's got an input, a loop output, power input and a power loop output. What we're going to do is we're going to take our audio signal, which is coming from our phone, right, just like it was before, playing some music, and we're going to connect it up to the input. Then we're going to take our power cable, and we're going to connect that to our power. Next step is we're going to connect the sub further to the tops. We're going to take our loop output here, right, and we're going to get another microphone cable, another XLR cable. We'll go in. Nice, and then we're going to go up to the tops. The other side of that microphone cable is going to go into this input here. And then we also need to get additional power in here. What's happening down here is that the full signal from our phone is coming into this input. The electronics inside the sub then cut all of the high frequencies out of this signal before sending it further to the actual speaker cone, to the amplifier, and then producing the sound. Because the larger speakers are suited to only producing lower frequencies, right? What the loop output does is it takes a complete copy of this input signal, right? It doesn't take a copy of the filtered signal, the signal with the top chopped off. It takes the complete copy, the whole thing, and sends a copy of it out of this loop output. What happens on the top is the exact opposite of the sub. The low frequencies are filtered out before it's sent on to the speaker. But let's have a look at the top again. You see that there's also a loop output here. So actually, we could do the exact same process, but go into the top first and then loop out and go down to the sub. The reason I'm doing it in the sub first is because I'm trying to keep the cables on the ground. I don't want a heavy cable coming all the way up to this speaker and then going down again. I'd much rather have one set of cables going up once and staying up here. So another thing that you can do, right, is that you can take your tops off of the poles, which are mounted in the subs like this, and move them over to regular stands. And that allows us to move our subs wherever we want to get better coverage. So if I just take this guy out, I'm going to move it into the center now. I can move the two subs into the center. Now, why would I want to do that? If I'm standing in front of the subs here, right now, all of the bass energy comes from one point and spreads evenly across the venue. If I had the subs underneath the tops, just as before, then when I am standing in the middle, both of the sides combine and give me loads and loads of sub energy, right? But as I move over to the side here, to where the top is, the distance between the sub over there and the sub over there creates a cancellation in the bass frequencies. So you actually lose some bass energy at certain points in the room. So if you can convince your DJ or whoever you are working for to let you rig all of the subs up in one place, then you'll end up with a really, really even coverage across the whole venue. Another way you can do it, if this isn't viable, is to have both of the subs located at one of the tops. That way, you're going to end up with less bass on one side of the venue than the other, but at least it will evenly progress throughout the venue, and people won't have a drastic listening experience as they move a couple of meters to the left or the right. It'll be more like the further they get from the subs, the less bass there is, somewhat evenly. So if you can convince your DJ, get your subs in front of the DJ riser, or even behind the DJ riser, coupled together like this, and you've got a nice even coverage throughout the whole listening area. So just to be clear, we still want to have our tops in our zones, but we want to have our subs in the center where both of the zones meet, essentially. If you'd like to know how to get the most out of that speaker system, I'll leave a video here that shows you how you can tune it using data and a measurement microphone. Until next time, goodbye.